Hello, I can hear you.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Welcome. So let's just give it about 2 more minutes. Mr. Joseph, good evening, sir. Thanks for joining in early, sir.
Yeah, Ogalari.
So just 2 minutes and we can kick off. Yes. All right, sir.
All right.
Yeah, I think we are good to go now. Sonia, are you here, please? Madam Sonia. Hello. Hello, Sonia, are you here? Let me check my.
Is it Chika you're calling, Sonia?
Yes. That's our other name.
Yeah, I know. Like, I've forgotten that.
Oh, okay. Oh, she's there.
Yeah, she
I
was
guess
spoken earlier.
maybe she's
We have spoken
okay. Just wanted her to take the floor. If it's not available, I'll just handle the conversation. All right. Okay. So, good evening, everyone. Welcome again to another exciting interaction. So, before we proceed, can anyone lead us in prayer, please? And I can also nominate too. Okay, Mr. Sunday, can you please lead us in prayer? Okay, if it's not available, someone else can just take it up, please. Opening prayer. Amen.
Father, in Jesus' name,
Amen.
Lord, we thank you for this awesome opportunity we have to learn, to belong to this group, that we know that you have orchestrated to be a blessing for us in a time like this. We know that you arranged this, you planned this, and you have given us the privilege to be a partaker, to be part of this wonderful movement. Lord, let your name be glorified in Jesus' name.
Amen.
We pray that as we are engaging in this discussion, that the Spirit of the Lord will minister to us even through the speaker, that there will be learning personally, individually for every one of us, that the message will come and touch our hearts. There will be enlightenment, there will be exposure that will revolutionize the life of every one of us individually in the mighty name of Jesus. Thank you, Lord, because you are God that answers prayer.
Thank you, Jesus.
In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. So welcome again, everyone. Is Sonia back? Chika, are you there? All right. So before we delve in, we've been having conversations around products, product design, and ideation. Last week, Mr. Sheon took us around the ideation process of how to conceptualize. So this week, we'll be discussing around MVP, because when you get the idea, the next thing you go for is the MVP. And there's no other person that I think I handle this conversation better than our honorable Mr. Joseph. So Mr. Joseph is a chancellor of Univelcity. I think there's a noise coming in the background. And I think he has done this a couple of times, and this is like a walk in the park for him. So welcome, Mr. Joseph. You have the floor. Thank you for honoring our invitation, sir. Thanks so much, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Joseph, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so very much, Larry. I'm very happy to be here. Good evening, everyone. I know quite a number of people here, at least close to half of the room. No, maybe not close to half, maybe a quarter. The interesting thing with teaching this topic for me is this is the third time on this platform that I'll be teaching this. And each time I've had to teach it, I never take it for granted. I never like get used to it because I think this is a very important knowledge for every one of us as entrepreneurs. And I even apply it to my personal life where when you talk about MVP, anything you want to do, you want to test it first before you spend so much on the project to see what it will come to, before you dive deep into it.
Mommy.
Hey, sorry everyone.
Mommy.
I have to sneeze here. So today I'm very excited when when Larry reached out to me that I should come. I'm a member of the community too. So in case you've not seen me before, my name is Joseph Agunbiade, and I'm super excited to be doing this. I started my career originally. My undergraduate degree was in physics, and I'm still a proud physicist. In fact, I'm still going to go and study quantum physics, quantum computing very soon. So that's how much I love physics. I started my career building softwares, building websites actually for customers. And I continued that till in 2011. I co-founded BudgIT with Oluseun. And, with BudgIT, we're able to sorry, just some distractions. So I was 2011, I started BudgIT, and we're able to make quite an interesting impact. And with BudgIT, we've now been able to scale it across 5 African countries and the United States of America. In 2016, I started what became Univelcity, and it's been an interesting journey, training people to meet the growing demand for tech talent in the ecosystem. I've seen some interesting people here who are alumni, and it's been such a journey. The software company I started, I didn't shut it down. We've continued and we've grown. We've built a lot of interesting softwares for companies around Nigeria and around the world. It's not a very big company. I've always kept it very small. And doing all of these things has kept me on my toes, because for you to continue to survive, for you to even get someone to part with their money, you need to ground yourself. So you need better skills than before. If I sell to you today, next time I want to sell to you again, I need to come with superior knowledge so that I can convince you to part with your money. And so that's been my own journey and my experience as an entrepreneur. I've done quite a number of other things. Some things have worked out, some haven't worked out yet. Some will soon work out. So if you eventually hear that I become a multi-millionaire in dollars, or maybe in billions, I don't know whether I'm a millionaire now in dollars. I don't know. I can't tell. This money that is not in the account, you can't call it that you have the money. So, but if anytime you hear that blown, it's all the efforts that were put together. So today, Larry, why you don't make any sound? Yeah, so I think it was last week at London Tech Week, I met with some interesting members of this group. Two of them walked up to me and was like, hey, I've attended your sessions before where you talked about MVP, talked about product or something on the community group. And that was really like an eye-opening session. And, one of them went on to do, what do you call it now? To pitch somewhere at AWS office in London. I attended his speech. He was speaking to Techstars Lagos. They came to London. So I attended the session and I was very impressed by the guy's speech. And these are the impact of this program. The impact it has made and is making. These are a few people that I've met. And I'm sure that this evening, this also might actually impact one or two of us in a very useful way. So I'm going to share my screen now. Sorry, if you see what is not right, just ignore. There are so many things going on in this world. So I just have a lot of things going on my computer. So here's my slide. It looks too feminine. I don't know why I had to choose this thing, but just go with the flow. All right, so I'll be speaking on building your first MVP. I have an MVP I'm testing with Mentor-led UK. It's a new company we're experimenting on top of what we have done with Univelcity. I'll talk about it later. In fact, that's the shirt I'm wearing, so I'm just promoting it because it's a new thing, And so I figured that if I'm talking about MVP, let me just put it there. Let me do a very small marketing for myself, tonight. So what is MVP? I'm sure most of us are familiar with the word minimum viable product, which is a version of your product that has the smallest set of features necessary to prove your business concept and validate it in the market. Can you all see my screen? Yeah?
Yes, we can.
Okay, lovely. So it is the smallest unit of smallest set of features necessary to prove your business concept and validate it in the market. It is like the first basic version of your product, which you develop not to make it perfect, but to learn if your idea has potential. The MVP has enough value that people are willing to use it or buy it initially. And it provides a feedback loop to guide future development. So for me, I have this October, I'll turn 40, and I have lots of my friends that have never been married, both male and female. And I was just wondering that this cannot just be a problem. How am I going to solve that problem? And a few days ago, I decided to even put up a post that I saw online about people that are single to DM me because I have somebody for them that I can match them with. And interestingly, people started DMing me. And, so using my Instagram as a place to put up stuff like that, and my friends see it, they're DM and they're asking questions. And because of, after the first interaction, I've learned from it, and I'm going to create a Google form today, later this night, to share with some of them to fill in their basic details because I'm beginning to understand.
Number one.
So
Let me. I think I get it.
Please mute yourself. You raised some video. Sorry, there's a noise in the background. Okay, thank you.
So, and for me, that is like an MVP because I'm testing the idea that I'm thinking about in such a simple way. It doesn't really cost me any money anyways, but I'm able to test if people want it. And guess what? A lot of my friends that are female, they are giving me, they're saying, Joseph, man, I really need a husband. And the guys also, you always think that men will say that they are strong men. They will not show it. But people, when you chat privately, they say, oh man, I'm looking for a wife. And they are very serious, So I'm able to gather this data. Now I've learned that at least that men also are looking for wives. It's not just that they don't want to marry, but maybe they don't know how to go about it. So I'm still learning. So this is a very new concept completely to me. So the purpose of an MVP, what is the purpose of an MVP? The purpose of an MVP is to test a product hypothesis with minimal resources. So when you have an MVP, you want to test the idea, the business idea quickly with least effort and cost. What I've just described is a good example. It enables you to validate your assumption about your product and its market. No matter how brilliant your idea is, even when you see it in other markets, it is still hypothetical. It's an hypothesis. because when an idea travels from another country to a new country, it's completely new. And so you have to be careful in just trying to say, oh, I want to copy this idea because somebody in India is doing it. So that hypothesis, you have to try and find a way to test it. And that is what MVP is about. And the goal tonight is to see how I can show us through case studies, how people have done it and how you can learn and, implement it. Another purpose of MVP is to accelerate learning. You get to learn directly from your users. You will see what works, what doesn't. So matching people to get married that I just started testing. I had my own assumptions to say, oh, I'll take this basic information, that most men would like to marry a lady that is younger than them and all of that. So I tried to match two people. One is in her mid-30s. I thought they were about the same age bracket, but when I started I tried collecting data from them. The lady was in her mid-30s, the guy was just 29. I didn't know. But he said he doesn't mind up to 32, but above 32, that might be a challenge for him. So, but the lady was above 32. So I'm like, okay, this is interesting. So it's possible that there are even men that don't mind a lady that might be a year or two older than them. So I've collected the feedback from them and from him. And that feedback, I'm going to use it to improve on the way I'm creating my form to collect data subsequently. So it helps you to understand what they need and what is missing. This feedback will help you to build a product that really meets customer needs. Another point is to reduce wasted engineering hours. MVP helps to avoid building product that customers don't want. It allows you to fail fast if your concept isn't working and pivot more easily if required. If you are an agency here, if you run a company where you build software for people or website, all those kind of things, you will discover this happens a lot, where you've been building the product for 3 months or 4 months or more. And before the product even ends, the basis upon which they wanted to build it for has vanished. There was no proper research. Or what happens in the case of Nigeria is the client now start changing the requirement on the fly. Sometimes they will change it 360 degree or 180. They just go from, this is what we're trying to do, and they go completely opposite by the time you're supposed to be ending the project. And that is because the whole thing has changed. And if they're not careful, it's still going to change again. And this is the reality. Some of the time it changes because people did not prepare for it, and they would have spent 3 months, 4 months paying engineers. If you build an MVP, it's something you can turn around in days, and with it, you can quickly test the waters and see if it's something that people really want. And that is part of the benefit of MVP. It's save you from paying that much or spending a lot of money. And that's why sometimes when you're building a startup, they'll say you should have a founder in-house. A technical co-founder in-house, so that you don't keep paying outside people. I run an agency, so this is my business. I keep bringing the product, but the truth is, you need inside people that you can work quickly overnight. If you hear our story and the story of a lot of people who are successful startup founders here, they will tell you how they had to quickly turn stuff around overnight, and that's because that is how best to actually test an idea. You get it out the next morning, you have a pitch opportunity, you go pitch your idea, and there and then they can tell you if the idea makes sense or not. But most importantly, of course, you test with your customers. Another thing is that it serves as the base for other products. An MVP can also act as a foundation for other products. You start with something small and gradually build up feature as you go, creating a suite of products over time. So currently I work with a bank, as a client. And one of the things that I noticed the bank has done is that they are built for them primarily as a bank. Their business is to give credit. So they have tested the idea of giving credit to people and they've perfected it. Now they've tested the idea of a concept called buy now, pay later, which is that, they're able to allow you pay bit by bit to acquire anything that you want. Now that they have cracked it, they are now building varieties of products around it. So there are now different things that you can buy. If I start talking about it, you might know the bank, so let me not give out too much information. But from my own understanding now, I can see clearly that because they have cracked one core component, they can build a whole lot around it. And that's the same thing you do. Someone like Lanre, Lanre started with a school management system, and he did it very, very well. Now that he has cracked it, he's now building a whole lot around, a lot around that. Now, I'll tell you, one of the things that you learn, with an MVP is the fact that MVP gives you opportunity to research. And at the end of the day, you probably just learn how maybe a kind of, customer base, how they behave. And by the time you're done with your research, what happens is that you might be among the top 1% of the people who knows that much about that market segment, about that base, about that particular niche. Because you know that much about them, you are able to then build something that serves those people. Because you learned iteratively and you're able to serve those people. Now, because you have understood them, is it not better for you to milk that market? And that is what happens. So you keep now building product around it because these people have potential. So you now start building product around selling and serving them continuously. You see a Facebook, you see, from Facebook now, they have now built a lot of product around Facebook. In fact, they require that you use Facebook to log in. If you want to advertise on Instagram, you need to, most times, link your accounts to Facebook and all of that. So those are the kind of things that MVP help you to build and to achieve. Another thing with MVP, it helps you to secure funding. Investors are more likely to invest if they see a working product, with user traction. I tell people that at least try and sell to 100 people, depending on what you are trying to do, or acquire your first 100 customers. It's easier for you to talk to me. If you say, oh, just come and invest $10,000 in my business, and it's just an idea, I won't give you anything, because how are you even sure that it will work? It's just an hypothesis at the end of the day. And anybody can have an idea. So what you do is you build an MVP. And guess what? If you need my own money to go and build MVP, then there's a problem. So you need to figure out what's the simplest possible way to do this? You want to run, I gave an hypothesis. I don't know if it was, I think it was the last community group. I was talking about someone who goes to Canada and he thinks that there are a lot of Nigerians in Canada, and he wants to start a restaurant. And he's now telling me to give him money to start. I can't give you money to start a restaurant in Canada because how are you even sure people will come out to eat? So the first thing is try and join any community where you see a lot of Nigerians. When you join that community, go on Canva or whatever it is, create a banner and say that you do food delivery. You prepare food and deliver to people. If you do that and people show interest, and they start buying and start ordering, there's a decent number of people that you will get from a particular cluster. For you to now even start thinking of opening a restaurant. In fact, there's more to that. You probably need to, after you gather those customers consistently, you need to now start talking to them.
So like you book a ride. So I don't know how much you charge him.
Jacob Samuel is disturbing my meeting. So you now you need to gather those data and do all of that. Most of the time when you show people, the money you have made might not be so much, but if you can prove and show that, see, this is the money I've made, it gets interesting for me, it becomes music in my ear, and I'm like, okay, well, take this money, go and start, or go build your MVP. And most of the time you won't get support because people can now see it. Oh, I've seen this before. Since you are going in this trajectory, your customers are reacting this way. I think this is what you should do. Can we test this? And oh, this one, you can use this money to test it. And that is the reason why people also join Accelerator. You build an MVP, it's easier for you to join Accelerator. And from there, it can become a springboard for you to build. If you have any question, I would say that we have a section for question and answer towards the end. So you can take note of your question and you can ask me towards the end of a contribution. So what I've done is I've put together 4 principles of MVP. Very important. And the way I did this was to put it and rope it around specific brands that we can learn from. So the first one is, the first principle is solving the right problem. Understand your target customers and their needs. Very important. And the example I'm using in this case is Uber. Let's look at Uber as an example. Before Uber came into existence, hailing a taxi was often a troublesome task. People had to either wait on the street for a taxi to pass by or call a cab company and wait uncertainly without knowing when the taxi would arrive. These were the problems customers were facing. I faced it a lot. If you go out late in Lagos, those days before Uber, by the time you see those taxi people, after waiting for like 1 hour in a place where you are scared, Finally seeing a taxi man, somewhere that is, 1,000 naira, they can tell you 20,000 naira, and you don't have option, you pay them. But you see, Uber identified this problem, that everyone is facing the problem. And guess what? You are not the only one facing that problem. Yeah? The taxi man too, he probably has driven, he's just driving by faith. That maybe maybe eventually, if I go through this street, I'll find somebody that needs a taxi. So it was both parties that needed the problem. So Uber identified this problem and came up with a solution. The idea was simple. A mobile app where you could request a ride from your location, and show exactly when your ride would arrive. You see, they brought in transparency to it for both parties. So they brought the person who needs the problem, both people who had the problem, and then they brought them together. That was magical. It's very easy. And I can assure you that if you don't need GPS to know location, they probably wouldn't have built a mobile app. It probably could have started as a WhatsApp app. You just get on their WhatsApp number and say, and they will match you. But they had to do that because of location. I'm saying this because some people will now use it as a base to say, oh, I need to build a mobile app. No, you don't always need to build a mobile app. Yeah? Because they need to use GPS. And mobile phone, since we carry mobile phone, it became a basis for them to. So the Uber process is that, let's look how they solve this problem, in these 5 steps. So the first is identifying the target customers. Uber identified its initial target customers as tech-savvy individuals in urban areas who own smartphones and needed a more convenient way to hail a cab. If you read, there's a book called The Upstart by I've forgotten the author, but they talked about the story of Travis Kalanick and all of that. There was also the story of Airbnb and a lot of the upstarts. Interesting story. You see what actually happened, how Uber was born. The second point is understanding customer needs. The Uber team recognized that this customer needed a way to conveniently request a ride from their exact location and wanted to know when their ride would arrive. Sometimes, when you call those people, they're like, oh, God, I'm waiting, and you'll be there for like ages and all of that. So they solved that problem of transparency, creating a solution. Based on this understanding, Uber created an MVP, which was a mobile app that allowed users to hail a ride from their location and provided an estimated arrival time. The fourth point is validating the solution. Uber team launched their MVP in San Francisco. If you've been to San Francisco before, you see that it's a very good place to launch a product like Uber. Because first of all, Uber has been, San Francisco has been a very tech environment for way back in like maybe 50s or 60s. From the early days of the semiconductors to all of the, emerging areas to the PC, the Macs and all of that. So they launched it there and it became an instant success. The initial users loved the convenience that Uber offered, and the feedback confirmed that Uber was indeed solving a real problem for its target customers. One of the things you do is, if you're trying to, when you're building your MVP or during design thinking or design process, ideation, you create user personas. And what user persona does for you is it helps you to understand your customers very, very well. You can define them so clearly that sometimes you can tell clearly that these people are people that live in Mushin. You can tell this particular place, oh, this thing is just for Ikoyi people. And, it doesn't matter. You can start from Ikoyi, and guess what? There are several Ikoyis all around the world. So even though it's going to be for Ikoyi people for life, you start from the one that you are closest to, serve them, then you can expand to the Ikoyi in Ghana, the Ikoyi in Sierra Leone, the Ikoyi in Johannesburg, and all of that. So you need to understand that, and that helps a lot with validation. So they tested it in a specific place, which was San Francisco. Iterating based on feedback. Based on feedback from early users, Uber continued to iterate its product, adding features like fare splitting, rides history, various ride options, Uber X, Uber Black, etc. Today, I've seen Uber, they have Uber Eats, I've seen scooter, I've seen a scooter service on Uber. In fact, I went to one city in the UK, and in that city, Uber partnered with local taxis. I guess they had difficulty breaking into the market in the local city, local town or city, whatever. And they had to partner with those guys so when you book, you're actually booking the service of a local taxi, and they come in to pick you up. You see, iteration. Very interesting. The second point on my principle, I've talked about the first points. Don't forget quickly, solving the right problem, very important, which is understanding your target customer and their needs. So remember that. The second point is simplicity. Focus on core functionality that provides the value proposition. You have a vision, right? You have an hypothesis, you have the problem you have seen. Because during ideation, what you do is, the biggest thing is you understand the problem you're trying to solve. Having understood the problem and all that, you now have to look at it. What is the most important thing? It's not the serene, all the serene that's, paraphernalia around it. It is, what is the most important functionality I need to work on? This principle states that an MVP should contain only the essential features necessary to solve the problem for the customer and deliver its value proposition. In other words, it should focus only on the core functionality that provides the main value to the customers. So I use Airbnb for the example. Airbnb provides a good illustration of this principle. When the founders, Brancheski and Joe Gebbia, were struggling to pay rent, they saw an opportunity when a major design conference came to San Francisco. You can see that all of them, San Francisco, right? Because most of their technology or what they are building is targeting similar demography. Okay. And all the hotel rooms in the city were booked. They decided to rent out their living room with 3 air mattresses for attendees who couldn't find a hotel room. When you look at that air mattress is so cheap, something you can easily pick up. You can order from Amazon in the morning, maybe by evening they will deliver. I remember once I was in San Francisco and I ordered something in the morning. When I went to class, I was doing the training then. When I got back in the evening, I think around 5 or 6, they had delivered the item. I was shocked. That was one of the places I've experienced same-day delivery on Amazon. And so they probably could have thought about the idea, immediately order those air mattresses and get delivered to them so quickly. So that means they are able to test this thing so quickly. This was their MVP, a simple website named Air, Bed and Breakfast. The site offered a platform where people could rent out their extra space, like an air mattress in a living room, to those in need of accommodation. The value proposition was clear, a platform that connects people who have extra space with those looking for a place to stay. In this MVP, they didn't include features like online payments, profile verifications, reviews, pictures, or any of the numerous features that the site has today. Instead, they focused on the core functionality that provided their main value proposition, connecting hosts with guests. One of the stories that YC always tell about Airbnb is that they will tell you that, the company almost died at the point. They were decided struggling and all of that. And it was in YC that they taught them the concept. They came up with the concept of going to hire a professional photographer to go take high quality pictures to put it on the website. Because at this point they were evolving and they learned that. And those are the impact of accelerators. And that helped them to survive and they grew. Today, of course, they are $1 billion company. I mean, several $1 billion worth of company as Airbnb. So you must always remember, only build what is most important. Focus on the future. Don't look at other people. What's the biggest challenge I've seen in, there are a couple of charts. In Germany, both using scooters. Okay, very true. Okay, people are saying interesting stuff. Fantastic. So let me go to the next one. I can't remember what I was trying to say. So the Airbnb process. Let's look at how Airbnb exemplifies simplicity and focus on the core functionality. First, identifying the core functionality. The core functionality Airbnb wanted to offer was a way for people with extra space to connect people who needed a space to stay. So the host with the guests, very similar to Uber. Building a simple MVP, they created a basic website where hosts could list their spaces and guests could find a place to stay. It was as simple as that. No additional features or functionality. I tell a lot of people sometimes when they have idea that just use WordPress. You can do it in 1 or 2 hours. I mean, 1 or 2 hours, you're done using WordPress. I have a very beautiful website that if I show you now, you'll be blown away. But that website, I did it in one night. So I had the presentation the next one. I'm talking of in recent time, not those days. Because when we launched BudgIT then, I remember Bosun, I was in his house 2 weeks ago and I was like, hey, Joseph, this thing, you guys should launch BudgIT. Even though it's PowerPoint, just launch, you must launch. I remember that day in September, where I started in March, we had one, tech in governance and all that. But of course, somehow we're able to magically turn it around using Joomla. So the first website version was actually Joomla. So I tell people that you don't need to. Some people are perfectionists. Don't bring your perfectionist into trying to build a startup. You have to try as much as possible to keep it simple. Keep it very, very simple. So validating the MVP, which is the third thing, the concept was validated when they successfully rented out their living room to 3 guests during the design conference. This proved that there was a demand for this type of service. The last point is iterating the MVP. After initial success, they started to iteratively add features to the platform based on the feedback they received from their users, such as online payments, profiles, review, etc. But all these features were added later, only after the initial concept was validated. So there's a framework around MVP that is called build, measure, and learn. So you build. When you build, you measure, you get feedback and all of that. Then you learn. From your learning, you improve, and you continue in that cycle. Build, measure, learn. Today, in this class, I've decided not to focus so much on the theories, but I'm just, dropping it. Build, measure, learn is what you do as an MVP, and you must be open. If you know that normally you don't take feedback, you're not very good at taking feedback, you have to work on yourself, because if you want to build MVP, you must be open. Some people will tell you that what you have built is rubbish, and you say, "Oh, really? Thank you." You write it down. you must be that open, that level of openness. If you struggle with openness, you actually build you might not make a great entrepreneur. You need to be open to take feedback. It's a mixture of optimism, openness, and a whole lot of things that actually make you, you're a magical creature as an entrepreneur. You must be that open. So I've given you the first point, second point, and the third point. So the first point I said is solving the right problem. Second point is simplicity, which is focusing on core functionality. And then we're on the third point, which is high quality. While it's a minimal product, it still needs to be a good product. So even though the concept of an MVP involves simplicity and a minimal feature set, it is essential that the quality of what is provided is high. The minimum viable product does not mean minimal quality. This can make or break the first impression with early users and significantly affect adoption rates and feedback. This is very, very important. And this you see perfectly that, exemplified by Spotify. So Spotify provides an excellent example of this principle. At the onset, Spotify sought to address a key issue. Illegal music downloads were rampant, and there was no convenient legal alternative that gave people access to the music they wanted to listen to. The solution Spotify envisioned was a streaming platform with a vast library of music accessible to users for free within legal framework. In their MVP, Spotify didn't immediately focus on creating the perfect user interface or include advanced features like curated playlists, podcasts, or social sharing. So if you are launching a musical platform, these are not the things that are important. There must even be a need first, and you have to serve that need. Instead, their MVP was a desktop app that allowed users to stream a vast catalog of music legally. The problem was existing. They have identified it. Just focus on solving the problem, not all the extras. The key here is that even though the product was minimal, the quality of the core feature, the music streaming experience, was excellent. The sound quality was high, the streaming was smooth with no annoying pauses or buffering, and the music catalog was extensive. I read this in a book. They really, really put in a lot of work to us, because before that time, if you try to stream, those days in 2000, 2003, 2004, we used to use a lot of apps. I can't remember their name, WinApp, a lot of those streaming apps. They can really be very, You said what?
Not just okay.com.
In fact, those ones happened much later. Not just okay.com and all of that. There were a lot of these old apps that even Windows tried to, they tried to stream on the Windows player, streaming, and several services like that. Real Player, there were so many of them. But Spotify did something that was really, really phenomenal. They spent a lot of their time engineering, they mastered that point where everybody else struggled. And that was what gave them that point of high quality. Important point, not principle number 3. So this is the process. Let's look at how they did that. of high quality. Identifying the core functionality, which is the core functionality of Spotify was to allow users to stream music. Building a high quality MVP, they focused on delivering this core functionality with the highest quality. The music sound quality was high and streaming was smooth. And they had a vast music catalog from the very start. Because that was the most important thing. That was the most important thing. Validating the MVP. The MVP was launched in a few European countries and its high quality led to rapid adoption. It validated the assumption that people were willing to listen to ads in exchange for free, high quality, in exchange for free, high quality music. So I put a comma there. And lastly, iterating the MVP. Only after this did they start to incrementally introduce additional features such as mobile app, social sharing, music discovery, and more, based on feedback and data gathered from their user base. So the last point, so I've gone through the, how many points now? 3, solving the right problem, simplicity, high quality, and now actionable metrics. Collect data that will inform your future decisions. The principle of actionable metrics in building an MVP means collecting and analyzing data from your MVP that can inform your future decisions. This can include user behavior. You must have a way to collect those things. Feedback, adoption rate, user engagement, retention rate, and more. These metrics help you to understand whether your product is meeting your user needs and how you can improve it. Than any time in the history, today is the best time to be alive. Why? Because there are a lot of product management courses, paid and unpaid. We offer paid one. There are a lot of people that also offer paid one. There are also a lot of unpaid. Guess what? If you don't have the money, go on YouTube. You learn a lot. You can go to Udemy. You can buy very cheap ones and learn. There are a lot of options for you. If you're a founder, knowledge must be like, you can't say that, oh, I don't know this one, or no, this is like very basic. Yeah. You have to sit down and devour knowledge. You read books, you read about these things. You don't need to have an MBA. Knowledge is so democratized today that you can literally understand every single thing I've said here. You can't be an entrepreneur and say you don't understand retention rate or customer acquisition or lifetime value of a customer or blah, blah, blah. You have to understand these things. So these actionable metrics, you must know the ones that are relevant to you and what you want to focus on. And this data is what you are collecting. So when I talked about, that framework for, an MVP, build, measure, learn, you build, you measure. How do you measure? If you don't even know what you are measuring, what is most important to you in your business? You must know what data is most important and you collect that data very importantly. So a very good example here is Facebook. Facebook is a good example of a company that effectively use actionable metrics to guide its decisions and development. Facebook started as a small MVP style project called the Facebook, designed exclusively for Harvard students. The Facebook, the primary purpose was simple: to connect students with each other. It had a minimal feature set, allowing users to create a profile, add friends, and update their personal information. Once launched, the Facebook team began collecting data on how users interacted with the platform. They tracked metrics like daily active users, the average number of friends per user, user engagement with the platform, among others. All these things, fantastic, very important. If you are building a social app, for example, the kind of data you are looking for is different from if you are building an e-commerce platform. And it's different from when you are building like a payroll software. If you are building a social platform, it is important that the number of people that interact per day is very high. The number of people that log into the app every day is very high. So you are looking for daily active users. But if you are doing a payroll software, maybe just once in a month or 2 times, if people do that, it's okay. So you are probably looking at monthly active users. Differentiating this thing and knowing the metric to track will give you and make you a high flyer. So what did they do differently? First, in identifying the core functionality of the Facebook was to allow students to connect with each other. You must always understand your problem. Launching the MVP. They launched the MVP exclusively for the Harvard students. Like the other ones, Airbnb and all of that, they launched in San Francisco. Collecting actionable metrics. The Facebook team began tracking the key metrics, such as user signups, daily active users, average number of friends per user, and overall engagement. This thing today, you might just look at it as, oh, what's this one? That was nothing. When Facebook launched, 2004, this was genius. It was pure genius. And one of the reasons was there were some body of knowledge that was rising, and they found themselves in a place where a lot of this knowledge were readily available. Then a lot of people don't know about these things. Daily active users care. No, everybody was waiting till the end of the month or end of the year. You see that body of knowledge over time. Today, you see a lot of investors asking for quarterly returns before they wait for end of the year. But if in Q1, your business was already doing poorly, performance has no dive, why wait till the end of the year before they get to know? You now have bond money through 4 Qs before you now eventually tell your board members, your report and all of that situation, or your investors. They want to know. Show them quarterly report how you are performing, because they don't want you to waste their time. So you must or bond their money. If they need to, shut down shop and sell your assets, they do that quickly. So making informed decision also. Based on these metrics, Facebook team realized that product was extremely sticky. Users were not just they were engaging daily with the platform. Someone is calling me, disturbing us. Engaging daily with the platform. This data confirmed that their product was offering real value to its users and encourage them to expand to other colleges. You collect that data and then you go other places. One of the things that happens is sometimes you can launch something, you launch it broadly. When you launch it broadly, you discover that 80% of your customers, I think I've given this analogy before sometime, where you run a restaurant, and when you run the restaurant, let's say the restaurant was launched in Yaba, and as you're running the restaurant, you open from 8 in the morning to 10 in the night. And if you don't collect data, you just think that you're just selling. But if you collect data, you might later discover that bulk of your sales happen between 12 and 6 or 12 and 5. But you are running generator from 8 to 10. So if you look at it, how much hours effectively are you making 80% or 90% of your revenue? You are making it in just 6 hours, but you are running for 14 hours. So the remaining 8 hours is just waste. So if you do that and it has collecting data, you can fix it there. Next time you want to launch, you now launch and say, oh, we social time. And you don't waste your, running forever. And those are the benefits. So I tried in the MVP. As the user base grew, Facebook kept tracking user behavior, which informed the rollout of many new features. For example, when they saw that users love posting and tagging photos, they developed a dedicated photo sharing feature, which became one of the most used features on Facebook. I use that a lot here. So I think I'm going to stop here. I put together a couple of case studies, which after talking about all of this, I'm sure that I've more than covered, but I can still spend 5 more minutes just touch on this. The examples I've given was sufficient to cover for the case studies. It's just like an extension. So Dropbox is a perfect example. Anytime you talk about MVP, everybody talks about Dropbox because they were the perfect example. People needed a simple way to sync their files and share. That was the problem statement for Dropbox, and shared with them with others. At that time, existing solutions were complex and hard to use. MVP approach, the Dropbox team developed a simple demo video as their MVP, showcasing the functionality of their product before building it. Outcome, did you see that? MVP approach, Dropbox team developed a simple demo video as their MVP, showcasing the functionality of their product before building it. Outcome and learning, the video attracted a large waiting list of interested customers, validating the market demand. This allowed Dropbox to build the actual product with a clear roadmap and customer validation. Now, don't go and say, oh, you want to use video to show what you are doing. No, what they did is that they created the product, they created a website, did a video, and made it look as if they have created the product. And then they put join our waiting list. So people started signing up. So they were signing up. There was customer acquisition, very crazy number of customer acquisition. I can't remember the exact number. So they did that clearly. And now that they have collected it, they will now tell you that, oh, we'll be launching. They now quickly went to build it based on what they have shown off in the video. If there were feedbacks that were given, comments on that video that, oh, I don't like this one, why is this one necessary? They probably would have just cut that down. Most of the time, those feedback help you to even cut down on the number of things you'd have added that you don't need. And it saves you money also at the end of the day. So instead of chasing and looking for investors, this feedback helps you to know whether you don't even need one to launch your product. And eventually, you can take off from there. So post MVP development, building the actual product, highlighting, how they use their feedback to, okay, I was supposed to talk a lot about this, with early users to iterate and improve. They use their growth strategies, they use growth hacking and referral program. A lot of these things, you can read them. You can read a lot of these things, in books. There are a lot of books. I'm happy to share some of my, catalogs with some of us. Referral program, very powerful. The referral program, PayPal used it when they launched. PayPal will tell you that, oh, when you join PayPal, refer somebody, and they will credit you with $5, actually. $5. Some people always think that it's insane. But what makes that really phenomenal is, see, you are the one bringing them their customer, and they are paying you the $5. Why go and pay CNN to do advert for them, and they are not sure customers will come? So they are actually telling you, refer somebody and we'll give you $5 straight up. Not those ones that will tell you to go and get 20 people before we'll give you $1 or something. We'll give you, they were crediting people. They know their target. So think about it this way. You're about to go and raise $1 million, right? And what your investor needs is go and get your first 100 customer. You build a product. When you build a product, you look at it. $1 million, that's a lot of money. So what do? You sit down, get people to sign up and say, when you sign up, I'll credit you with $5 that you can spend on the platform. How much would that cost you to acquire 100 customers? $500. Isn't that simple? So why go and spend so much money advertising up and down? You probably then need to, if you need to even do advertisement, your advertisement will now be join our platform and get $5. And because of that, you attract people. Of course, I don't know if that's perfect because it has to be the right customers that you're pulling in. I'm just saying that by being able to think about, this kind of genius idea, they grew their platform. So where Dropbox is today, one of the leading platforms for online file storage and sharing. And then Twitter, powerful example. We all know Twitter, and it has been acquired by this young man, our very good friend. So on this note, I'm going to end my presentation. Lessons from case studies is the importance of validating your idea with an MVP before investing heavily. Iterating is key. MVP is not the final product. It is just the beginning. Gathering and acting on feedback to improve and grow. With this 3 point of mine, I hope I've been able to convince you about why you need MVP and not confuse you. Thank you so much. I stop here.
Thank you. This is standing, clapping, jogging, shouting ovation. Thank you so much. Beautiful presentation. It's just like I'm hearing about MVP for the first time all over again. Thank you so much. So I just want to drop an observation. There was a particular product I think my people knew how a lot of our products came by. Sometimes we close on Friday and Monday, there's a new product. So, and they are tested that way. So what happened this time around was that we created these new products and I was trying to get feedback, but instead of getting feedback from customers, so customers have started trying the products. They're already giving feedback that, oh yes, this is nice, this is beautiful. So customers time, I work with schools, the school side and the parent side, we're already getting those kind of feedback. They wanted to take it a notch further. So we went to the industry experts. If you get my point, that we're already in the space. Like, oh, please, this is the idea we're working on and the likes. And literally, I think I told you that story. And the person told us that this is a very stupid idea. That in fact, don't say it outside the game because no. So let's say, for example, we created an app that is distributing textbooks to parents, between parents and students. Just as an example. Parents are already saying that, wow, we get textbooks easily. Students were loving it. They will now go to meet a publisher saying that, oh, since you guys are in the industry, you own the industry. So we want to partner with you to get books on this platform. And the publisher is telling you that this is a very stupid idea. Don't mention it outside. So that almost killed the product until when I really started, okay, yes, this publisher, they're the ones paying for the service. If the people really paying for the service say that this is okay, I just wanted to use them as a channel to expand the products. So that's how we went back. And in fact, it's that product that is even sponsoring every other product on the platform now. So I think people should also pay attention to that. Not every feedback is real feedback. Yes, take it and keep it. Oh, it's a very stupid idea for you people. Keep it somewhere. The day to be useful for them, you go and break it out and present it properly again. So thank you so much. So the floor is open for questions. Sonia, please, you can handle this part. I will yield to you now. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Joseph. Thank you, Mr. Larry, for the insights. Please, if you have questions, kindly indicate by raising your hand, and then I would, so that just to keep it orderly, so raise your hand, then we grant you the access to the floor for you to ask your questions. Thank you. And if you're not comfortable speaking, you can also drop the questions in the comment box, and I'll read out the question. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I don't see any hands yet. Oh, one hand. Okay. Shay, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, thank you, Joseph. Really appreciate it. So, although I came a bit late, but I got to that part of simplicity of the MVP. Now, most in a saturated market, for instance, where there's already an existing product, and what makes you to be different is an added feature which is not available in the market. So how simple can you be if everybody already have an idea of what this particular product should do, but yours has an added advantage, like an added feature? So that feature is really not shouldn't be part of what makes it simple. So how simple can that be?
Great. That's a very, very, very good question. Very, very good. And I've not really thought about it. And I'm trying to see if there's anyone in the market who has actually done stuff like that very well. I don't know if somebody else can help me answer that question.
Okay, let me give it a shot. There's an idea I would say, maybe for example, I'll use my own industry as an example. So someone will say that whenever there's a feature or an idea that nobody's using, is that the idea is very good that nobody has picked it, or is very bad and nobody, people have tried and they've dropped it. All right, so if, for example, let's say I'll use school management where I've been for about a decade or so now. If there's definitely school managements everywhere, there's school management systems all over the country, several are coming up almost every day, and you're coming to the market, I would advise that you start with your unique features first, your uniqueness, your unique angle. Instead of building a school management, then adding a feature, why not build that thing you are trying to solve as a product on its own first? So for example, I use this as an example now, this ordering of textbooks, let's say ordering textbooks and notebooks. That's what you've seen that is a missing gap, is a missing link in the regular school managements that are all over the country. And remember that MVP, you do not jump on MVP. You've asked questions. People have shown interest before you went ahead to build an MVP. So you've asked parents, so will you find it easier to get textbooks? Either you go to Kiari market, or I don't know if you said textbook Kiari, but you shall go to the market to buy the textbook, or the publishers, or just sit at your home and order it and it's delivered, or even delivered to the child in school. Those kind of conversations. So if you've even started asking the question, and a lot of schools are already telling you that, don't worry, we already ordered the books for our students. We purchased the textbooks. You should know that is one of the reasons why most of the school management don't have it. But if the schools are telling that, oh yeah, that's a nice one, but unfortunately, we don't want to manage that stress of the logistics of moving textbooks around. And parents have told you that, yes, we love to have that, but it's not available on the platform to deal with, then that's a solvable solution. Then if you are trying to build an MVP around that, I don't think you should start with school management that's in the industry. You can start with as simple as a very simple Google form. Parents that show interest, how many textbooks do you need? Okay, I need 5 textbooks. Someone's making noise. Okay, yes, I need just 5 textbooks. These are the titles and the likes. If that's what you've done, and you've seen that it's starting to gain traction, you discover that you might not even need to go in the line of what every other person has built in that industry. So that feature might now become your own product that you are selling as, because I think most times we usually want to build products that competes. And I've learned that you will scale and grow faster when you build products that complement. You don't necessarily have to cancel out an existing product or solution. So that's my own. I hope I'm able to attempt it in the great extent. Thank you.
Bluntly answered, and this is what happens when you do that. As an entrepreneur, it's not what we are treating today, but there's a concept called exit, where from the beginning you are thinking of exit. If you successfully build that product, like Larry described, and those other ones are so big, you can actually have an early exit. They can just acquire you and you blow. You see Figma, for example. Adobe became very scared of Figma, and they made them an offer to buy Figma. So, and that's because Figma just focused on helping people to design their interface and all that. But at the pace Figma was going, they're like, these guys are going to become the next Adobe. I have a graphic designer who used Figma to do everything they are doing for illustration. Everything Illustrator can do. And that's what happens, if you actually go that route, focusing on your most important problem. The bigger guys, if something that should complement each other, will ultimately probably acquire you, or it becomes your own entry point, and then you can now gradually release every other feature that you need into the product. Thank you. I hope that is satisfactory.
Shade,
thank you. Yeah, thank you.
All right, so we'll take Sukomi next, then Victor.
Okay, my question is about, I think, late 2021. I discovered that food processors, they are facing a lot of problems in Nigeria and also in Africa. And because of with our situation in Nigeria, because of the power issue, to get a dehydrator that can dry vegetables like onions, leaves, is a big problem. Many food processors cannot afford to buy their imported dehydrators, and most of the imported dehydrators use electricity, which is expensive and difficult to manage because of our power issue. Therefore, I decided to come up with this, developing a dehydrator using gas. For the dehydrator, I find a way to do it such that you can dry your onions, you can dry your vegetables, dry everything nicely as if you are using electricity smoothly, in such a way that the gas of the dehydrator will not affect the smoke of the gas coming from the gas burner will not affect the product that you are drying. I did this so that it can work independently without electricity at all. Everything uses battery and it's working. I've built the MVP. It's working, but everybody, the food processors, have used it to dry a lot of things. They love it, they want it, but they can't afford to buy it. It's expensive. In that case, after developing MVP, people like it, but they can't afford to buy it because of the cost. What do I do? How do I move forward from there?
Is there anyone else who can answer this question before I go on? I give it a shot. Anybody else that want to answer? All right. So,
I have a question for him.
Tika, you have a question for him?
I have a question for him. Did you actually map out like the persona of your purchasers before, while you were preparing your MVP?
So to simplify the question, did you really know their purchasing power, how much they have to spend on their hydrators before you started the design? Because if you had that in mind, that would have guided your design. You would have even find a way to streamline some things or remove some things that are not necessary. But there's a flip side to this. And sometimes the users or the persons that really need an equipment might not be able to afford it. But you might go through channels of government and the likes. For example, some farmers need tractors. They can't afford to buy tractors. But the government buys tractors for communities and local governments, then they all go there to hire it. So you might want to explore that kind of perspective too. I hope I'm able to make sense.
Solid stuff there. What Larry described is a business model. I was struggling to say, when you do hardware device, what you have created, I won't even call it an MVP, I'll call it a proof of concept that gas can do the same thing because you're in Nigeria. You don't really have a commercial product. First of all, hardware is a tricky thing, and that's why I see a lot of people try to avoid that space. But what you have done is genius and it's very innovative. Problem with innovation is that a lot of times people don't understand it and why you have to go through it. But leaving all of that aside, the best solution is to innovate around business model. First is that, do you know your customers? Do people really need, so if you ask everybody here now, does anybody actually need a dehydrator? Who are the people that need a dehydrator? And that was Chika's question, trying to know who is your customer. Identify your customer. It helps you to actually know how to direct things towards them. If it turns out that they actually need your product, but they don't have the money, there are a lot of use cases, case studies that works, which Larry described. Government is an option. That can also be very difficult. The best is to now go extra mile of further innovating your business model, which is a community center. You can create a cooperative around these people and they can have it and they can all use it. They all do not use it at the same time. You use today. Tractor, that's what they've done. Someone like Hello Tractor, that's what they've done successfully, helping people to share the use of tractor. And you might actually need help with someone who is very good with business model for you to actually test this whole idea, to see if it works. So that's it. So, and in testing, you can actually test it and see, you go to whatever they are using before, get them to see how that is even possible. I know dehydrator takes a very long time to dehydrate. I know a lot of people here might not even understand why you need a dehydrator, what the dehydrator does. Okay. Somebody is already asking the question. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
When I got to this stage late last year, and I found out that after thinking through it, I came back to this option that you gave, building a drying hub. And I see that as a good opportunity. I've been able to pitch to some investors because what that one requires from me is money. I need to build many of them, keep them in a place, and people can bring their products come and dry. Therefore, the sample that I had, I used it for that service and it worked. People came to dry and we dried for them. But because of space and the money that I need to build more, I've now been able to speak to some investors and they are ready to invest in the business. The idea is to now have a hub, a website, where you can come and schedule a drying time. And then we charge per hour of drying that you are doing. Then the dehydrator will have to run based on an operation code that will be generated from the server. Therefore, we are sure that whatever we are making is secured. Now, the question I want to ask at this stage now, we've already developed the mobile, the web application to handle this, but we are still in the stage of which function and which function to include and things like that. I would just like to ask for a guidance at this stage that with this scenario, what do you think should be the focus? What do you think the main design should be? Okay. In this scenario, now it seems as if I need another MVP. Is that true? Because it seems different from the previous one that I did. Building out with that MVP, what would be the MVP of this new concept now? Okay, let me just put it out.
So,
okay.
So what you built first was a prototype. This now when you are doing MVP. So you built a prototype for hardware. So that's a proof of concept. That's good. Now you're not doing MVP in the context of what we are saying. And sincerely, the problem, you've already answered your own question. The problem is that people want to place the order. You want to know which one is available and which one is not available. You don't need to even complicate the issue too much and start doing access codes and the like. You might even have somebody manning the operations of the device so that they can be seamless. Operation. Someone is making noise there. Okay. Yeah, so that they can be seamless use for the devices. So all you just need, not enough, you might just need a simple form, not even a web app yet. Because there might be a tricky part with your kind of customer segment that they might not be too tech inclined, because I can see you working with farmers and their age bracket and the exposure technology might be tricky. So I don't think you might even need a web app in quotes. What you might just need was maybe some like a WhatsApp group or something. Someone send a request and somebody is putting in an Excel to know when one slot's available and the likes. But I want to chip in something that I know one of my friends always said that Whenever you are leading the industry and creating a new product, a new idea, one of your first job to do is not to sell. Your first task to do is to educate people.
Yes.
You have to train people. You will be, as a market leader coming to a space first, you have to start training people about what you are bringing into the market. So for example, you are bringing dehydrators that are using gas. You have to let them know the cost. Let them know the variable cost if they are using electricity. For example, if you use electric dehydrator, you will spend 50,000 a day on the heaters. That is one. But using gas will cost you 10,000 a day. You are educating them. You are not selling yet. Then the next thing you told them, oh, the other alternative is to use charcoal and wood. If you use charcoal and wood, there's a study that showed that it becomes poisonous and exposure to cancer, blah, 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 blah. So you're taking your time to educate people so that by the time you're done with the education, they will say, and that is one of the tricks you will see in the old model bosses. They won't start concerned that they want to sell drug. They will tell you about, oh, if somebody is feeling headache in the center of the head like this, and at the back, it is the spinal injury of the something. And that one is something that cures it. So they don't tell you that they're selling medication first, but they are identifying the problem and teaching about the solutions that are available. They now specify where they are fitting into that solution. I hope I'm able to make sense with that.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, you do.
Yeah, thank you, Larry. So there are a whole lot of thinking and conversations which you can have around what you're working on, and I'm happy to make out time, maybe sometime, so we can discuss further on what is possible. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Victor,
I appreciate that.
Victor, do you want to come up now?
Okay. Hi, everyone. I think I'm not so sure what the question is here, but what I have is I've been trying hard to find the right way to phrase it. But let me see. I think what I wanted to know is, what would you advise people who are looking to come up with a product to look out for, when trying to understand if they actually have a viable product? The reason I ask this is I'm in the logistics space, and from time to time I speak to people who are trying to build, a TMS, which is transport management system. And what I find is they just do the same thing, which is build products that do the barest minimum. And over time, I've spoken to certain people, and 2 years after, they reach out, show the product they have, and it still doesn't solve a big problem. It's just irregular stuff. So I think what I'm just trying to ask is, because again, I think I've spoken to about 6-7 people in that, with the same situation. And what I find is it's almost as if these product guys think you are trying to kill their dream when you advise them, when they initially talk to you, and then they're always stubborn-headed and just go on to do the same thing. And when they bring whatever product they have, in your head, it feels like you want to say, I told you so. You just refuse to listen, For some reason, you think I'm the bad person trying to kill your dream. Whereas I'm saying these are certain things that need to happen because I have experience in it, things like that. So again, that's why I said I'm not sure what the question is, because almost as if I'm saying, what kind of advice can be given to such people? What are the things they need to look out for when trying to work on their product to be sure they have something that is sellable, not just waste years of their life, resources, paying people, and then giving up on that dream because it doesn't work. I'm not sure if the question was clear.
Yeah, it was quite clear, very clear. You're asking the question of where does innovation come from? Where will you, how can you innovate in that space? And it's very interesting because the biggest problem is that we look at problem from outside and try to solve it. The question is always, who is having the problem? Who is facing the problem? And you need to speak with them. You need to conduct and carry out your primary research. Most of the time, we're working on secondary market research. Primary research is actually doing a detailed survey of, within the market of the people who are in this particular industry, you know, and when you speak with them, when you interact with them, live in their daily reality, you can actually identify all of these problems that they face. You know, and someone Barakat is saying something. It is key to identify who the users will be and their pain points exactly. You know, so these are already people in the logistics space and all that. So by actually trying to immerse yourself, because the biggest place where innovation comes from is from empathy. You have to empathize, you have to feel their problem. What is the biggest problem? Is it that people are overpaying for delivery services? Is it that and sometimes it might be, the biggest problem might be something that it looks really impossible to solve, but you want to actually take your time and you are not in a hurry to collect that data. When you sit down, collect this data from a large pool of people, then you are able to now look at it and iteratively go through it with these users to ultimately figure out what exactly this problem is. It is identifying and understanding these detailed pain points that ultimately leads people to innovating the most. You know, I see a lot of innovation. I'm like, how did this person think about it? Just this afternoon, I don't know if there's a big fan of plant-based milk. I love plant-based milk a lot. But all the ones that are in the market, they are very shitty, extremely shitty, like very terrible, because when you check them, you see 2%. If it's almond milk, the actual almond inside is 2%. The main thing is emulsifier, it is this, they're all chemicals. So to make my plant-based milk, I get hemp seed, I get or cashew nut, I get almond, and I have to blend it myself. I have to use cheesecloth to squeeze it to get my milk out and all of that. It's not like it's so hard for me, but sometimes it's so interesting. But just this afternoon, I saw a guy, it made a machine where all you need to do is put water in one place, drop your grain or whatever it is that you want to use to make the milk, and then just press the button and the milk is out, complete. No using cheesecloth, no nothing. And I was asking myself that, how come somebody else had to think about this before me? And that's what happened with a lot of innovation. The difference between me and that guy is, me, I was just looking at it and complaining about the problem or thinking that, this thing, why would I have to go through this stress? I've never sat down to say, this is a problem I want to solve. But guess what? That guy is going to take my money. I saw it 250 or 290 pounds now. I have to start thinking about how to work hard to get 290 pounds to buy that guy's device. And that is the problem. You know, you have to sit down innovatively. I say innovatively, ask all the right questions around the people who are going through this problem. And at the end of the day, that's the point where you now start, going through it. And there are so many processes you can use for problem, your research methodologies that you can use to do that, to collect the data. If you explore that, you'll be able to define the problem. And then upon that basis, you can now go through an ideation process that can lead to the right solution that might be needed in the industry. I know I've spoken a lot of English, but I hope I communicated correctly. Victor, you're a big man, though. It's more like, why is it so cheap that I have to spend 250 pounds? That's a lot of money, man. I'm thinking about it. Maybe I have to save for several months to get that. But you see, that's the whole idea. Are you okay with that answer, or anybody, you want somebody else to add to it?
Oh no, that answer works. It works. Thanks.
It was saying something about product guys too, that still go ahead and build the same thing over and over again. I think it's probably the way the feedback is communicated to them. People would not, they wouldn't understand your plight, that you've been there trying to guide them through what to do, except you explain it to them in their own language. So, for example, you said that everybody's doing the same thing over and over again. They are all coming back to you. It's the logistics industry. And if you had communicated what you are expecting, not trying to say that, for example, it's a different thing to say that, oh, this your app is rubbish. It's the same thing that everybody's doing, without telling them that, okay, you add this to your own. It's a different feedback. Oh, if you're doing logistics app, can you also add a DPX, a different DPS on the driver and another GPS on the ride? Something ridiculous like that. So let them know what is really missing so that they can know how to tackle the problem, not just trying to tell them that it's the same thing with every other person.
Sorry, I just wanted to add.
Okay.
Sorry, I just wanted to add something that, you know, when people build products, I think another advice you can give to them is to engage directly with the users of their MVP to get direct feedback from the people who are actually using it. Because I've noticed that a lot of people don't do that. They just go to people who are not, you know, really part of their, in quotes, their customer avatars, people who don't really understand the problems that they're trying to solve. They go to those people to seek feedback. And I don't think that's the best way to do it. The best way to do it is to go to the people who are actually using that product, people that you feel have the pain points that you're trying to address. Get their feedback. What exactly is it that your product is not doing for them? What is it that, you know, it is not doing properly? Is there anything they feel that you should add, etc.? So that's just one thing that I also wanted to add.
Oh, okay, thanks. So like the first person that spoke, sorry I didn't get your name, that's why. But the thing is, I'm always very clear, right? I do not know any line of code. So when I speak to people, I try not to hoard information because, to be honest, there's nothing I can do about it. It's not like I can secretly code at night and build the product myself. Now, one thing I know I do is give them specifics. Look, this is what this market needs. Okay, Trade Depot, for example, they are in need of this, they lack this. If you have this feature, this will work for you, right? I know transactions, they do volumes of transactions, they do Omnibs, you know, other companies like that. Sometimes I've even been lucky to find similar products, right? Like I think there's one particular product in the US that I saw that was similar to what I was trying to, you know, the information I was trying to pass them. I'm like, look, check this particular SaaS out, look through it. These are the things that if you have today would solve a problem. I can link you up today with people who have that problem. But I just find that they come back sometimes and they say, oh, yeah, I understand, but I'm not trying to copy them. I'm like, but you're trying to get there and they've done it already. And I'm saying, look through it, understand the, you know, features that it has and what you lack, and still you're being, I'm like, okay, I guess maybe in the tech world, they have a code or something. I don't know what it is. So what's my business? You know, I have one recently who I was supposed, so I pay a particular product, I pay a particular company to use their TMS. And, you know, he came and I'm like, oh, you still build that stuff. Nice. I checked it, it wasn't working like the way I expected. I'm like, dude, look at these guys. I'm about to pay them. I'm willing to wait a month for you to get it right. You are halfway there, right? And he's like, okay, sure, we will get it done. And he comes back to me afterwards and he's like, yeah, I spoke to my cousin, my tech, whatever. And he's like, yeah, that will get there, but for now, this can work. I'm like, I'm not here to joke. I have customers, I have clients. You're not ready. You know, I've tried to be nice to give you data that I know you need. I know the volume of transactions I do. I'm happy to pass that to you. But here you are trying to continue your baby steps after 2 years and you're not listening. So, okay. Until date, he's still calling. And I'm like, dude, I've moved on. I don't know you from anywhere. We conversed once in 2020. You spoke to me. You've somehow found my number. And I'd be nice to say, look, these are volumes that would help you take any numbers to your investors. But here you are. So that's why, again, I just thought to ask if I'm missing something, because it's starting to become a trend. You speak to these people, and it just seemed like the tech school they went to, they told them not to listen to people. They have all the answers. And I'm like, okay, that's why I just wanted to ask, because I noticed that I didn't join the presentation from the start, but I noticed that most of the things you were highlighting were, I'm not sure if you spoke about it. That's why I just thought to ask to say, you know, how can people really differentiate whether their product makes sense, whether it's something different or, you know, and that's why I thought to ask. But yeah, I don't just criticize people. I never tell people they are doing rubbish. I mean, I say that in my house when they're not there. But in front of you, I would give you, you know, constructive criticism, not just, just bullshit what you have.
Doing rubbish.
Mr. Joseph.
Yeah. Huh?
I really want to hear you out on this because
No, but
what
people
you
are building
say, I
rubbish.
can
I don't
picture the
think
guys. They are
I'll
most
just
likely
tell them
junior
that they are
devs.
building rubbish. Okay, but I'll tell you something. I see this problem a lot. Tech people are not product people. People mistake
Yes.
ability to code to be product. No. You know, most of the time, they are the last people you go and meet to tell to build a product. Because a developer will just code for you. And that's it. Just codes. Most time you literally have to tell him. He knows how to write the code, but he doesn't know how the product will work. He doesn't do the thinking. So I don't really know the setup that you are describing, but what I see in an agency setup is somebody say developer is like a bricklayer. Exactly. What I see in setup like this is that in agency setup, people come in and then sometimes they'll give their projects to developers to build for them. After spending so much money, they will now come back and say, oh, this guy was just wasting my time. If they have their way, they will blacklist that person. But you see, it is never the developer's fault. If you want to build a product, you have to go to an agency. And when you look at their processes, you go through product workshops, you go through, they talk to you, you go through series of workshop, whiteboarding sessions, you do a lot of these things to really figure out what exactly the problem you're trying to solve. What happens most of the time is that people come to you, even as an agency, they'll say, oh, this is what, build this thing for me. Oh, I like Kuda Bank, or build Kuda Bank. Somebody once came to me to build, our agency to build a fintech. I'm like, no, sorry, we can't build this product. Because when I looked at it, I say, this is a setup. It's a trap. I ran away from it. If you are dealing with people who don't listen, you don't have any business doing anything with them. Because the idea is never like, oh, just do this or copy this one. You can never do such a thing like that. It's a problem you are trying to solve. And what I had said earlier on is empathy. You must put yourself in the shoe of the people who are facing the problem and build exactly to solve that problem. Product is never, and if you have a problem and you are telling a software company to solve that problem for you, they better focus on solving that problem and not trying to tell you every other extra thing, which is possible in another problem you've had. Just focus, build that product. Don't try to sell any other thing that you have. This is the problem I'm having, just solve it for me, and that's it. So there are many circumstances. I don't understand the setup.
Yeah. So, Mr. Joseph, I also want to drop something. I think most times early stage founders, actually, if they are all technical founders, a big problem when they're in love with technology than the problem they're trying to solve. And you finally find some developers that I would say they are coding for their ego, not coding to solve a problem. If you get my point, they are coding to prove that, okay, I can code something that can do this and this. So for example, I can code something that can lift 200,000 kilograms of weight, but instead of understanding that, okay, this thing I'm coding is shippers that really need it to move containers. Have I had any conversation with shippers? Have I asked them what's the challenge they're having with the current cranes they are using? So it's a big problem, especially most likely the person that's their first startup and the person is still young, still has the energy to waste. So it happens. And I think a lot of us have been there. I've also been in that position that I was in love with technology than the business. So they will learn. It's a matter of time. It's a process. So come back in the next 5 years and see that same guy. You see that a lot of things have changed in the person's resume. Thank you.
All right. I think we can take more questions, Abi, or is that all? She's on the still.
Yes.
Yes.
She's hand is up again.
Yeah. Just sorry. Based on what you said about agency. Okay, so for agency, what do you consider as a good agency? Do you consider some for security purpose and for authenticity? Would you like to outsource it outside the country or within Nigeria? From your viewpoint.
So I advocate for local developments because, you know, I mean, a lot of talent, a lot of people are looking for business. Why you take local money outside? Most of the time, nobody can steal your idea. You know, idea is not something that people just steal like that. So most of the time, and then you can always sign contract with people not to do anything funny. So it's just always okay, for cost sake and also communication sake. So it's just always perfect. But if you are building a startup, it is best you have your developers in-house. However, if you want to do an accelerated development, you can work with an agency, and then while you test, maybe by the time you find a product market fit, you can now start building your team. You know, so I mean, I advocate for it. A lot of brilliant people in Nigeria, but always go work with an agency. Don't go to an individual. Don't go to Fiverr or any of those places. And I'm not saying that because I'm trying to tarnish. No, if you are building a product from scratch, if you want to solve a feature, if you just look for someone to code something for you or to do, you can always do that. But don't go and build a product and taking it to India and all of that. I can tell you that today we have some of the best engineers on the continent or in the world from Nigeria. You know, so you can, and don't look for an individual, single man army to build a product. Work with a company. But if it's a feature, there are a lot of developers, you can hire them in as a one-on-one contract, and they can do it for you. But most of the time, go to it if you have the money. If you have the money. But don't just developer, work with an agency. People who, there are so many layers they have to go through. What happens to us most of the time is half of the time or quarter of the time, people end up not building their product. By the time we finish the product workshop, they will realize that it was a useless idea in the first place. And so they don't bother. We save them a lot of money. But if you tell people to pay for that workshop, you know, they were like, this is not just talk. But guess what? You have saved them a lot of money from that workshop. And that's the same reason why you do an MVP anyways. Did I answer your question?
Yes, but so, okay, for instance, second question, what do you look out for in terms of agency to choose from, and in terms of credibility, and what exactly do you look out for?
Referrals, great recommendation. Agencies that has been around for a while. It's very important. And then agencies that may have done similar stuff before successfully. You can go for them. I tell people to, if you can afford it, pay a proper company to do your job. Sit down, it's just wise to do that. You know, and sometimes if you cannot hire, and for the in-house team, if you cannot hire a proper CTO, create a proper team, don't just go and hire developers to start giving them job and you say they are frustrating you. Because I hear that a lot. I sit on a lot of board and I see the frustration. And the biggest problem is not the developers themselves. Because like somebody said, they are bricklayers, painters, you know, you must have the architect, you must have you must have all of those people in the house and for you to have successful. So otherwise, go to an agency. Agency have a lot of those people that are doing a lot of projects, so they're able to pay them decently. Because these days also, if you don't pay developers properly, you know, it might affect your output of your work. They are definitely doing 10 jobs at the same time.
So I don't know if I can have the last question. Sorry.
Yeah, Mr. Shane, master classes for you.
Please. So just so that you're talking to a not techie and but a business-minded person. So now, for those agencies, for instance, okay, if you're not a techie person, you know, because it's these are important products and important business concern, as a matter of business concern. What do you request of them in terms of so that the products will really, at the end of the day, after your payment, then apart from the contract you sign with them, what do you request for them to show so that at the end of the day, once they're done with the products, it's solely yours, and they don't hide anything from you. What's some documentation and all that you request from them?
Who wants to answer that?
I can help.
Great.
I think I should try. Okay.
Yes, I think it is very necessary for you to sign a contract. You should sign a contract. You should emphasize that the product is your own. It doesn't belong to whoever is building it. You know, these are some of the things that you have to emphasize. And I'd advise you to get a lawyer involved also. If you're not a lawyer, I really don't think it is wise for you to engage them on your own. You know, have your lawyer involved so he can protect your interests. So that's what I always advise you to do.
Yeah, excellent. Anybody else? Nate, you're going to add to it.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Sorry, I've been very observant. That's why I've been silent. Okay, so I run a little agency, tech agency. So basically, what people look out for when they are trying to ask you to build, let's say a digital product, for example, like you said, yes, a lawyer is good, a document, but I think what clients usually lack is that there are things called cPanel, there are things called source code, there are things, so your lawyer should be able to know all this stuff so that at the end of the day, the developer will not have any, like anything to himself or any entitlement, because what most developers usually, I think they have a misplaced sense of entitlement. I'm a developer, so I know what I'm saying. So in the end, you should have your source code, even if you don't understand it. It should be in your possession. The cPanel should be yours. Everything about the product, the back end, the front end should be yours, so that maybe the individual or the agency is not around in the next 2 or 3 years. You should still have access to those stuff.
And sorry, can I also add? If you have the money, let them build it on your own environment. That's what it might cost a lot because of the cost of AWS is this, but that's just an addition.
They are all brilliant contribution. You know, and I think that, you know, when you sign those in the contract, the clause should be there, and they push to, by the time, so during development, usually the development environment is domiciled with the agency. So when they are done, they can transfer. So what you do is you set up a development environment, even for your own server. A lot of clients don't do this thing. You have a test environment, you have it, and then production, both of them, even after they've deployed, so that subsequently you can support the system, you know, and then you have the project on your own GitHub too. So even though you're a business and you are not necessarily a techie, you need to have a GitHub. If you don't have one, quickly sign up now. I hope Microsoft will pay me. GitHub.com is a repository where your code is stored. When this is stored with database, you possibly have an external supervisor to ensure that everything is accurate, and you will have it from there. So anyone who wants to work on it, if you're done with an agency, you can always hire somebody, or if you build your own team, they can take it up from that point to support. That hands-off part is very, very important. And usually technical project managers know these things very well. So what you can do internally is to hire a technical project manager who can help you with the relationship, to manage the relationship with the agency. And that will go very smoothly for you. All right. Okay, there are a couple of hands up now. So I think that's
Thank you very much, guys. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks. Chika.
Thanks. Can we have Ire, please go.
All right. Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Joseph, for that explanation. That's very, very insightful, sir. I noticed that most of the contribution, most of the things being said is centered around carrying out a primary research on the problem. But sometimes I don't think it's all the time that even the people that need the product have
need the product or perhaps having problems can actually identify with the problem at the time that it's not every product that they can identify with the product with the problem at the time that you are saying. So in such a case that they don't, if they are not even aware of the problem at that time, how can they help in giving you a reasonable contribution towards you building that particular product?
Can you cite an example?
For instance, before Apple came up with iPad, people were not really looking off like, okay, iPad, but they came up with the product and people eventually came to like it. If they had perhaps asked people about that, they probably may not have given them the right answers for them to go ahead with the building of the product. So in such a case, what should anybody do?
Thank you.
Yeah. Who wants to answer? Will you answer?
No. No, please, my guys are here.
All right. So yeah, when you were going, I know that you wanted to pull Steve Jobs' card. Every product, involves a lot of research. So there are times definitely where people don't know. There's primary research, there's secondary research. Secondary research is when Larry was talking about doing educating your customers about your product and all of that. There are a lot of statistics that shows the things people can do if they have certain things, and how certain things can impact their lives. And I can't remember one time, I was just thinking about my life. I used some technologies, and now I can do some things that would have taken me several days in just hours. I can't remember the exact thing. I just thought about it a few days ago. So most of the time, what you don't know, you don't know. But statistics shows that people waste their time. Statistics shows that if people sleep, they will be more productive. Because people that live in a place where they don't sleep on time, they may never know that. But since statistics has shown that, your job as an innovator is, how do I help these people realize this, so that they can ultimately buy into my particular product, But once statistics has shown it, once data has shown it, you can actually use data. And when you look at it, when they came into the market, they didn't just come in by just releasing iPad. I think what Apple did was to go incrementally. The first innovation was that they brought in the new Apple was iPod. And iPod did what everybody else could not do. People enjoyed music. There were a lot of premise. They enjoyed a lot of things. And what iPod did was to help people carry a lot of this music around with them. The innovation that came before that was this Walkman,
Sony Walkman.
Sony Walkman, yes. It's only big boys that used to have those things, usually that year. The Chinese people came up with some of their own too. At the end of the day, what Steve Jobs did was to say that, why do you need to carry those big stuff and all of that, and you need to put in your CD inside, carry your CD, you can scratch. So he had a basis and innovated with that kind of product. I mean, I've had conversations around this and I cannot remember clearly how Steve Jobs' methodology around how he innovates, and which would have been very, very, very good for this question. But clearly, building on top of that, he used similar innovation for iPhone, and on top of iPhone, he now released iPad. And I'm sure that it's possible that this came from customer feedback. Things like people trying to, because iPhone was now a touch screen, people were now probably trying to draw on it. And for years, there has been a lot of research. People had made attempts to create digital paper before that time. So with the success of iPhone, someone suggests people don't know what Walkman is. They have to go to the museum to see it. So from the success of the touchscreen of iPhone, it became clear that the innovation that people have used different ways to try to solve the problem of digital paper, they can now use that same technology. I believe that was upon that base that he built and he tested iPad. And when it became successful with the MVP, people liked it. It was love at first sight for a lot of people who in that industry needed it. They don't build on top of it. So sometimes some MVPs, you have to even test it in the cheapest possible way for you to know. It's not every time that you must be completely primary market research. It can be primary, it can be secondary, it can actually be that you test. But when you are testing, you test in the simplest possible way. Everything in an iPad, they already had those materials and those technology to test. I hope that answer is, it might not be 100%, but I believe that is helpful.
Yes, thank you, sir.
And to add to that answer, I believe that Apple also go through MVPs. And in fact, even after the MVP and they release some products, there are some products that Apple, Google, and the likes have released. And at some point, they recalled them or stopped their production because they were not successful. So no matter how big the business is or how small it is, there's still that need to do a test first. Google did their glasses, and I don't think how many people bought the robotic looking glasses. It was wow and all of that, but people didn't really jump on it. So they still also have their own MVPs in their own way. So it's not like you just come up with the idea, push into the market, and people started buying.
Yeah. A lot of time people build up and they say it's only available on iOS. Android will be shouting, but you see, they are just testing. And those are the reasons. All right. Yeah.
Victor, do you still have any more questions to ask? Your hand is
Oh,
up.
yes, I have a question to ask. Then I wanted to also speak to the question that the last person asked. I honestly think that, in my opinion, it's not possible while carrying out the research to not. So you said sometimes if you go to certain users to find out what the problem is, they don't even know that there's a problem. While that is correct, I think the person conducting the survey needs to know the questions he's asking, right? I'll give you what's it called, a perfect example. I know of a beauty store that's trying to turn into a tech company, and some of the questions that were asked was, what are your current order volumes, right? With respect to request, how many of them are successful? How many of them fail? How many walk-ins do you get? How many online requests do you have? Just by identifying those things alone, it's easy to understand whether or not they have a problem that you need to solve. If they have tons of requests, and they're only able to deliver 40%, 30%, you then start to look into why that their success rate is that low. From there, you start to find problems. So it is then you would identify the problems they don't have that they may not have known. So I doubt that there's really a place you go to. Yes, they may not know it, but I think spending time looking through the entire process, you start to see areas where they fall through the cracks and find ways to solve it. So yes, you're correct, they may not know, but I don't think if you go to do your research, you would not find anything unless you're not asking the right question or you're not, poking in the right places. Then to what I wanted to ask, I noticed that most of the people here are big men. You guys have said use agencies for your app. But again, most people with ideas most times struggle with funds, and sometimes, or from my experience, most what's it called, home-based developers are usually problematic. I think it's because they take on multiple jobs, and so they don't exactly deliver on time. Because Sonia and I have been in a company before where tons of developers that we got from a reputable place, and no product came out. All of them had to be fired, things like that. So again, if the big boys are not delivering, you then start to worry. And it's, again, I think the other question I wanted to ask is, how do you even identify these reputable agencies that you could go to, consulting agencies that you could go to? And then if you're struggling with funds also, are there a list of people who are not so pricey that people can go to? Considering the fact that you still just have an idea, you're not yet sure whether it will work, whether the market will accept it or not. So most times you don't have a lot of cash to splurge out there and pay people. Again, those that have agencies understand what I mean. You will have your 1 to 5 levels and the respective costs that are associated with it. So I think the question is, for those who have a problem with going to the big boys, Are there people they can go to who help them in their, initial phase? And then for those who can afford the big boys, are there like a list of these agencies that we can go to? Are there people here who have such that can, list so we can engage them and things like that?
On the list of agencies, I would say that referral is good. People who have worked with agencies that deliver their job is something that works. You can look out for reviews online. I don't know how that review thing works for things like agency as much, but you can leverage on referral. I think Larry, your hand is up to answer that question. So I think I'll hand over to you.
Okay, so I just want to add to what you said. It's coming from the fact that someone has an idea, money never show, but he believes that this idea is bigger than Apple and Meta combined. If this thing land this, and we hammer. So, but the bottom line is that there's no cash at hand to hire the agencies, even the ones that are coming from word of mouth and are reputable that you are recommending. So, what can the person do? Like I always say that when you're building a technology product, most times you should be able to solve the problem without technology first, then that is technology to accelerate it. Now, in my own, I usually think in a particular way, maybe because of my bootstrap journey and the likes. If you don't have a seed round or someone that said that, oh, you told the person I have an idea, and the person said, take $20,000 and go and try it out, your approach would definitely be different. In fact, like you said, the person might not be able to hire these agencies, but this is what I would suggest. For example, you want to, let me use maybe dehydrators like you've been using now. You want to build the app for the dehydrators. You need money. I don't want frustration from developers that would be like, hey, I can code it and they have 15 more jobs and they too, they're also doing their side also. Apart from their main 9 to 5. So they will give you 2 weeks, 2 weeks become 3 months. But what I would suggest is that why not do that thing, solve that problem in a very simple way, even without using technology first. Like I said, it can even be a simple Excel document somewhere, even Google Docs and those free tools that you already use. Even if you're not too technically inclined, as simple as pen and paper, somebody calls you, oh, I want to use your dehydrator, write it down and have a book for it. Make some money from that. Even if it's little, when you now make that money, the next thing is that you might now need to find people around your network that are excited about that idea as you are excited about it, that they can sit down with it and code it and waiting to see it happen too. Because that agency route, if you have not really got it, it's better you just do it and do it right. Then you cannot have these other younger guys that are, I'm assuming there's a young person that's trying to do this thing. Younger guys like you that don't have rents to pay like a bigger senior developer, their car is not V6 engine or V8 engine that's filling it to 50,000 for. So something like that, find people like that are excited about the idea. They join you, they work with it and take that MVP. You take the MVP back to the market again and start see. The earlier you start making money from the idea, the viability and the more sustainable it is. In my own earlier stage, I cannot say I'm making money, but I was making 30,000 per quarter. That was somebody that's my own idea. 30,000 in 3 months. And we're 4 in the company then. So but it was still something that we're using as a feedback and using that fund. And that 10,000 was paying our CCO, Oga Joseph, remember 6th floor. It was just 10K or 30K a year or something like that. So it was still paying something. So that way we were able to sit down and build. I hope that would make some sense. So you don't necessarily have to, except you have that resource or you are coming from from savings or some cash flow, you've been in 9 to 5 and you are trying out an entrepreneurial journey. So you have the funds, then I would just advise you, save the headache, go straight for the agencies that are sound. Thank you.
Yeah, and most times what people are calling MVP is not MVP. What you want to build is a lot. That's why it needs a lot of money. Get a technical co-founder. You can build your MVP if it's clear, truly. That saves you a lot. And like Larry said, those days at CC Hub, we're in part of a community where when you have an idea, people will build. I remember when we were building Budget Cut App 2012, everybody came to our rescue. Everyone contributed, built, and it became a hit. So, and we didn't pay anything. So it is not, be a part of a community where you can even get these things done, for free. I've built stuff for people, my friends, and, when they made money, they were like, some of them offered me co-foundership and all of that. So you see a lot of product there, I see my name on it, co-founder, but I'm not co-founder, I'm not collecting money from them because we helped them, to build a lot of those products. So join the community. Don't become my friend though, because I won't build for you for free.
Yes.
But the truth is, you should. And Barakat wanted to say something. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I think something went wrong with my network earlier. Sorry. I just wanted to add that I totally agree with Mr. Agunbiade. For example, in my own case, it was frustration that caused me to to build my own first tech product, because my husband and I were having issues with keeping track of our rental income, because we were getting confused with which tenant's rent was due, which one wasn't due. So I decided to build an app to solve that problem, and it was just supposed to be for us. But when I told my friends about the app, all of them started using it as well to keep track of their rental income. But before then, they did not know that I could build apps, because it wasn't something I was doing for, as a job. So, over a period of time, my friends in similar situations will come to me and say, I have this product I want to build, I don't have money to build and everything. But because of the relationship we have, I usually build it for them. And then when things pick up, then they come back and give me something. So that's one thing I'd like to advise anybody who is in this kind of situation to do. Like Mr. Agunbiade said, try and look into your own network as well. If there are friends who can help you, even if you can't give them what you should give them, you should just try and build your relationships, because they can really come in very handy. Just wanted to add my personal experience.
Excellent.
Barakat, please share the link of that app. I think it's needed. Please share the link.
It's very important solution, like problem you have solved there. Yeah. All right. Wow, such a interesting session. A lot of beautiful questions and all of that.
Thank you so much, Mr. Joseph. I think someone dropped I would say it's a comment, but I would really want for you to just shed light on it. He said something about, Shay, your hand is up, so I think I'm just going to bring the question up. Don't worry about it. It's something in the lines of, it's not every problem that a Google Sheet and a Google Form can solve. And so I would like for you to shed light on that as well.
Yeah, Bali started with Google Sheets before moving us to an app. You want to ask for our share of the money. Okay, so it's not every problem that Google Sheets can solve. Yeah, there's always, WhatsApp can solve a lot of problems. Like someone wanted to spend the quote was a very huge amount of money. Yeah. But I later realized that you can actually solve that problem with a WhatsApp. With WhatsApp. Right now, WhatsApp is very sophisticated, and there are so many things you can do with WhatsApp. And so sometimes, let me even tell you something, even if you're not a technical founder and you have an idea and you are finding it difficult to show, you can actually learn. You can learn to build some of these things by yourself, and look for because you just want to solve the problem. Some of them you don't even require building. So now that there's AI, artificial intelligence everywhere, we're talking. So, and a friend of mine in the US reached out and was like, hey, Joseph, this AI stuff, how do we jump on it? And he wanted us to build. So I actually built an app in the early days of ChatGPT. I built an app on with I think on WhatsApp or SMS first, which is how people who are not on their phone, they can actually access ChatGPT via SMS. You send an SMS and then ChatGPT is going to return response to you at real time. And that's for people that are mobile, you're on your way, you're driving, you just thought about something, you can send ChatGPT and can reply, then try to build it on WhatsApp bot. So for us, we did that thing in just 2 days. At the point, it was like, hey, Joseph, why not, let's just use, there's an API service, I've forgotten the name of the service. That one, you don't need to code anything. It's just plug and play. You go in there, they already have API for everything. They have what do you call that thing? I've forgotten the name of the service. So it's just a service. You pay some dollars, maybe $30 or $20. You pay for this, and then you connect. And guess what? That whole thing that we built. For me, because I'm a developer, I struggle with going to pay for that kind of service. When API way we just build sharp, you know. So we spent like 3 or 4 days. But he was down there. Somebody said, oh, you could have built this thing in hours and all of that. And sometimes if you are a non-developer, it's even easier for you. You don't have the kind of problem that some of us face. Use a lot of those tools. There's retool.com. There is this particular API service. Zapier. There's Zapier. You can use Zapier to do a lot of things. And you connect services that people have built and you can, roll it out in the market. So many things are possible today that you don't even need to write any line of code. And it's just always perfect for MVP, So that's it. And most times Google Sheet can do it. Google Docs, Google Sheet, WhatsApp. By the time you combine it together, and Google Form, you can do magic with whatever you're trying to build. All right.
Another thing is that a lot of people, when you want to start a startup, for example, you've not made money from a 9 to 5, you're just a new university graduate, and the next idea you want to solve is how they can have a special device on rockets. And yes, it's beautiful to have dreams, but even Elon Musk that went to rockets, he had been successful with PayPal, Tesla, and the like before he went to SpaceX. So you can't now say that because the problem you want to solve is massive, and now make the problem everybody's problem while trying to solve the problem. Because you spend more time trying to raise the funds and resources to even test the idea. So it's better if you know something's not working and it's failing, just rule it out fast and move on. Instead of trying to solve that big problem, find a smaller problem in that subset to solve first, then go higher on the ladder till you get to the bigger problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Larry. Thank you, Mr. Joseph. I think that I'll just want to chip in one last thing just before we go. I think that we undermine the power of actually listening to our audience every single time, because at the core of it, you're building whatever it is you're building. Don't forget that technology is the tool. It's a means to an end. The actual end is solving a problem, right? And so there's that. One example that I would want us to take home is Money Africa. Now, the Money Africa we know today is the person that introduced community as a service. And in doing so, she did not build a technology. She didn't build any tech app. What she did was simply set up a community on Telegram. But first, before that, she started educating people with the available social media platforms. Now, again, before she even did that, it just shows, if you retrace her steps into understanding how she arrived there, you realize that she did a detailed mapping of her persona, her audience, her target audience. She understood where to meet them, how to meet them, and she followed those steps. Today, she's built a fintech layered from Money Africa. But the first step was first introducing community. And how did that happen? It was via Telegram. There was already the platform readily available. I think sometime last week, the internet went agog with when he mentioned that he did not write code. All he understood was how technology worked and how it solved real problems. So at the core of it is understanding what your target audience needs, understanding how the technology works, which is why, just to tie everything back home, it's knowing the things that you need to, especially in the industry that you're looking to play in, or the one that you are playing in already. All right, my beautiful people, I think that this is where I will wrap it up for the evening. A huge shout out and thank you to our facilitator for today, Mr. Joseph Agunbiade. Thank you so much for being here, for sharing so graciously, for answering all the questions and your detailed presentation. We are privileged to just sit under your tutelage. Thank you so much. And yes, to every single person that has stayed through from the beginning of the class up until now, thank you for being here. We'll share more details for the next session on the group chat. And then for those who are not able to attend, once the recording is available, we'll share it with you as well. Thank you once again, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Everyone who We should all thank
Thank you, everyone. Thank you,
Thank you
Mr.
so much, sir.
Agunbiade. Thank you.
All right.
Thank
It
you,
was beautiful.
Mr.
Bye-bye.
Mr. Joseph, thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Chief.
Thank you.
Mr. Joseph,
We're
thank
still
you.
expecting our share of your dollars.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
sir. Thank you, ma.
All
Thank
right.
you, everyone. Good night.
I see you. I see
Thank
every.
you very much. Thank you.
See you.
Really appreciate.
What group chat, people?
Wait, how did you get here if you're not on the chat?
A friend of mine invited me. I think Thomas.
Oh, okay, so I would share my phone number right now. Please just send me a message and I will send the link to you.
Okay.
Please, what group chat? I don't have the link to. I was invited by Mr. Joseph. So,
It's the
Nate, I
second.
invited you, but I was also invited.
Oh wow. Okay, that's thoughtful of you.
Yeah, Mr. Joseph invited me. So I felt
Yes,
it was
you invited me on your status, so you are not on the group.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, if you're interested, just send me a message and I'll add you to the group. That's not a problem.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right. I've sent you a message on WhatsApp, please.
Okay, I'll have to look now.